Hi, I'm Bob Larson, and welcome to this special edition of our weekly video blog. I'm coming to you live this morning because of the breaking news of what happened with the shooting in Uvalde, Texas yesterday. News is inundated with it. You can't escape it. Everybody's talking about it, and all eyes are on Texas this morning. The president has spoken. So has NBA star LeBron James and actor Matthew McConaughey. He's given his opinion since the location of the shooting, Uvalde, Texas, is his hometown. He was raised there. But the real question is, why did it happen and what role did demons play? And we're going to be taking comments. It seems like everybody has something to say about this. Last night, while I was getting ready for bed, I checked out Shannon Bream's show, and she had on Greg Laurie, a great pastor, man who has won many thousands of people to Christ. And he shared some poignant thoughts of deep concern about tragedy in his own family and life and how he felt for the parents. I have deep respect for Pastor Laurie. But I kept hoping that somewhere along the way he would say something on national television about the devil. About demons. He didn't. And of course he wouldn't. He can't. His ministerial career would be gone, and that would be true of any major Christian leader who came out on that topic and boldly said, demons did this. And part of the problem is, and I don't know his particular background in terms of training, but I'm sure it's absent, any direct connotation to the subject of exorcism and deliverance, and that's just the way it is. I'm not faulting him. That's just the way it is with churches and pastors today. But that's not the way it's going to be with us this morning. We're taking live chats. Steffi from Germany says, greetings. Laura says, greetings from Steinbach, Manitoba, Canada. And Jandy says, greetings from Imperial, California. And Java says, hello from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And Charlene, greetings from Center, Alabama. And Tom and Margaret from Mushroom Ministries. They are going to be live with me briefly tonight to share the testimony of what they're doing in the new ministry God has called them to. Now, they are business people. They have their own very successful business, but at the same time, they're committed to the cause of Christ. They have a story to tell that is unbelievable. And before tonight's Bob Larson Live kicks off, and I deal with a woman who became demon-possessed because of contacting a psychic who now has astral projected into her mind and speaks to her. In fact, I actually had a few moments directly over the internet with this woman, virtually. And this psychic spoke to me through her mind. Can you imagine that? Going to a psychic and then carrying the baggage of that psychic in your head later by astral projection and witchcraft? Well, that is what happened, and you're going to meet this woman tonight. And she's got to go through deliverance right here live, and they're going to be with me. Tom and Margaret, God bless you. Blessings from Sweden, Stefan says. Cuba says, hello from Cuba. Well, how about that? Are there any demons in Cuba? Are you kidding? Cuba is the hotbed of the origination of Santeria in the Western Hemisphere, particularly the Caribbean, of course. Claudia says, greetings from Houston. And John says, saying demons did this is like saying Biden's responsible for the amount of debt we're in. It makes no sense. I'm a professional black magician. This is not how it works. John, number one, Biden is responsible. But I'm not going to get into politics. But come on, let's be real about what's happened since the first of the year and the trillions of dollars that have been given away and blown and spent, which have conflated the debt. You don't have to be an economist, but just see what the Federal Reserve is doing now in terms of raising the interest rates to try to get this thing back under control. That's another topic, but I'm glad to know that a black magician is watching me. Ashley is watching from Kenya, and Tashipiso, I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, is watching from South Africa. God bless all of you. Let me get a couple of other people here, and we'll get right into this. Imperial, California, Germany. Somebody wants to talk about monkeypox. I got to go there right now. And then there was one really interesting here, one that brought this subject of other. Juan says, good and evil forces are at work. Anything influencing you to stay away from the path of righteousness, the Ten Commandments, are forces stronger than you and me at work. Well, they're not stronger than Jesus, of course. And let me get into the topic here, and we're going to get back to some more chats in a moment, because there's some really fascinating stuff here. But I want to quote a couple of individuals that people were quoted widely in the press today. I alluded to them a moment ago. First of all, Matthew McConaughey, big-time actor. And of course, a tragedy like this happens, and who does the media want to talk to? People like me, pastors, preachers, priests, people who might have a spiritual reflection, even if they're not willing to say the D word. They might have something to say about it spiritually. No, who do we go to? The NBA and Hollywood. Like, these people have a moral compass and platform that they've earned? Matthew McConaughey, let me just get real plain and simple, okay? He is pushing hard liquor in ads night after night on television. Matthew, you're part of the problem. He said the true call to action now is for every American to take a longer and deeper look in the mirror and ask ourselves, quote, what is it we truly value? How do we repair the problem? What small sacrifices we individually take today to preserve a healthier and safer nation, state, and neighborhood tomorrow? Okay. Did you really say that, Matthew, or did what your PR agent say that? That is empty double talk. What do we truly value? Children are being slaughtered in the school. We're talking about what we truly value and how we repair the problem. Well, I'm going to tell you how to repair it in a minute, Matthew. And he goes on to say, we can't exhale once again and make excuses and accept these tragic realities of the status quo. Well, of course, nobody wants to accept them as a status quo. But I'm not just exhaling again. I've got some answers for you. Stay with me. Like and share. You can see this is going to be a pretty interesting session this morning. And if you had subscribed to our channel, you would have gotten a notification, so you would be ready and sitting there watching me. And you don't even know what I'm saying now because you're not there because you didn't subscribe. But those of you who are watching for whatever reason, if you're not a regular subscriber, please subscribe. Hit that notification bell right now. As I've said from time to time, we have instances like this where we quickly jump on something that has moral and spiritual significance to the body of Christ, and we want to address it directly. And you're going to get some answers and a methodology of addressing it here that you're not really going to find anywhere else on the internet. So I encourage you to like and share right now and to subscribe. But if you like and share, somebody else can now jump in on this. And while you're at it, when you're hitting that notification bell, how about signing up for our members-only spiritual warfare training channel? Of course, we have our International School of Exorcism and our Advanced Academy of Deliverance, which, as I've said, is the highest level of knowledge and information available online anywhere on the planet. But you get a different kind of training and perspective on the subject of spiritual warfare. I encourage all of our students of the School of Exorcism and Advanced Academy to also become part of our members-only channel. But for those of you who aren't ready to go that direction yet, at least join the members-only channel. All right? Another quote. Not exactly my favorite NBA player, to put it mildly, LeBron James. He's an expert at everything, you know. But he does speak somewhat heartfelt, but he declares, my thoughts and prayers goes out to the family of loved ones of the lost and injured at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. And then goes on to say, like when is enough, man? Oh, that's a really helpful, insightful, deep, philosophical statement. These are kids, and we keep putting them in harm's way at school. No, we don't. We don't. People in the body of Christ who understand deliverance are not putting their children in harm's way. In fact, they're fighting what's getting their children in harm's way. He says, like, seriously, at school where it's supposed to be the safest, I don't know what planet you've been on, LeBron, but it hasn't been safe there for a long time. Ask the people in Sandy Hook. It's been a very dangerous time. And now, we're talking about locking our kids down, sending them to school, living in terror, in fear if it could happen in good old Texas and Uvalde. Where else can it happen? And of course, the president weighed in, and this is what he said, quote, "The idea that an 18-year-old kid can walk into a gun store and buy 2 assault weapons is just wrong." Why? Is that because we don't have a Second Amendment to the Constitution? Of course, he's 18. Now, personally, I'm for a 21 age of adulthood, but, that's long since gone and decided. I think this generation is not ready at 18. Maybe some godly Christian kids are, but the rest aren't. Personal opinion. No, it's not just wrong. It's a question of constitutionality. It's a question of Second Amendment freedoms. It's not just wrong. But I'll tell you what is wrong, Mr. Biden and the rest of the country. This kid bought 2 AR-15s and about 375 rounds of ammunition, and he paid $4,000 in cash. Now, President Biden, what I'd like to know, and the question that should be asked is, where did this kid who's a high school basic dropout, doing odd hours at a fast food restaurant, where did he get $4,000? That's the question we need to be asking. Not what did he buy with it, where did he get the money to do it? I would agree there's a certain amount of irresponsibility of an 18-year-old kid who's as messed up as this kid buying a couple of AR-15 rifles. But wait a minute. His family, his drug-addicted mother, and his grandmother probably doing the best that she could, and a dad who wasn't even there, they let him watch Call of Duty. He was obsessed with Call of Duty, first-person shooter game, and he's used to killing people. So I don't think this kid ought to be able to get a gun like that, but there are other ways to go at this. Let me continue to quote our president. "What in God's name," he says, that's borderline blasphemy, to use God's name in that context, in a statement of anger. You're not speaking for God. I don't care whether you're Democrat. I don't care if you're Trump. And he used some pretty salty language, which I didn't approve of. But he says, what in God's name do you need an assault weapon for except to kill someone? I know a lot of people who have AR-15s, and they use them for sporting, and they use them for target shooting. But more to the point. And then he again invokes God. Now, this is a guy who's fighting for abortion, invoking the name of God. What in God's name do you need an assault weapon for except to kill somebody? But he does make a good point. Deer aren't running through the forest with Kevlar vests on, for God's sake. That's the third time he has demeaned the name of God by just parenthetically, casually, blasphemously throwing it in. Okay? Not good. Not presidential. And then he goes on to say the gun manufacturer spent 2 decades aggressively marketing assault weapons, which make them the most and largest profit. For God's sake, here we are again. 4th time he says God. He says you must have the courage to stand up to that industry. Well, that's a political issue that needs to be solved. He says, what else I know? And this is the president speaking. Most Americans support common sense laws, common sense gun laws. Well, okay. They do. I do. But what are those laws? Who's going to legislate that? He said, I just got off my trip from Asia, meeting with Asian leaders, and I learned of this while I was on the aircraft. And what struck me on that 17-hour flight, was these kinds of mass shootings rarely happen anywhere else in the world. Well, that's not exactly true, but to a large extent it is true. But you could ask the people in Norway about the neo-Nazi guy who slaughtered far more young people. It happens elsewhere. It's happened in other countries. It happened in New Zealand. But no, wait a minute. I agree, Mr. President, that there's a lot more of this happening more frequently in America. Why? There are a number of reasons for that we're going to get into in just a moment, so bear with me. All right? We're going to talk about the killer, and I'm going to tell you about 5 basic pillars of society that have to be addressed in order to solve this problem. So Cool Kid says, help. I'm not sure exactly what you mean. John says, semi-assault weapon? Well, what is your point? Okay. Brock says, Biden's borderline blasphemy really bothers me. Almost every single speech, you'll notice he says things. He's always using the name of God in vain. Now, again, this is not Democrat, Republican, because Trump used some highly unacceptable language, and he normalized some things that now a lot of people are saying they didn't used to say, and I don't like that part of what he did. Okay, so I'm going to be fair about this here, all right? What is an AR? Well, it's an assault rifle. Okay, we'll get into that more in a moment. We need to bring God back in our schools. What we do. Greetings from Dusseldorf, Germany. Guten Abend. I think it's evening over there. Okay. An AR is not an assault rifle. It's a semi-automatic. Well, that's a matter of words. Okay. Here's somebody. Jennifer says, I would agree that this generation isn't ready at 18 years of age. I would leave the law alone and pray for this generation. We're probably not going to roll it back. Okay. I don't know where this came from. East African demons are typically just the old gods of Egypt, Sudan, and the various southward African cultures, just as most traditional demons were Canaanite gods. There's a certain amount of truth in that, okay? All right. If people would not be scared of these kids and do more, putting these kids in timeout. This kid's a killer. I don't think timeout is going to work. Liliana says, was the killer a Satanist? We don't know that yet. We don't know what his ideology was. Mercedes says, you are so blessed to be living in such a beautiful part of the world. Well, I would agree. Daniel, I got all your books, Bob, on Kindle. Wonderful. Thank you. Robin says, the world is really depressing. Well, it is. You need to look up Your Redemption Draws Nigh. Oh, Mohawk says, I'm watching you live from Te Puke, New Zealand, home of the kiwi fruit capital of the world. I've been all over the North and South Islands of New Zealand several times, and I don't think I have been to the kiwi fruit capital of the world. I hate to disappoint you, Mohawk, but I don't like kiwis. I like kiwi people. I just don't like kiwi fruit. Okay. A soldier member of our members only channel here says, God bless from Indiana. Okay, he talks about this other caller here, Mario, talks about the video games and says it's a kind of psychological demonic act. That's exactly what's going on when these people kill. So let me get to some more of my commentary here, and we'll come back to some more of the chats, fascinating chats this morning. The killer, Salvador Ramos, Hispanic. So I told you a moment ago about the ammunition, the guns, and I asked the question, what kind of kid on his 18th birthday celebrates alone? His mama's a druggie. She's not celebrating his birthday. I don't know about grandma. He shot grandma. Thank God she's still alive. What kind of kid was to celebrate his birthday that way? He has demons. He has demons. We'll talk more in a moment about how he got those demons. So, his mother, this is rich. She kicks him out of the house because he's rebellious. Excuse me, she's a drug addict. And she's going to take the moral high ground and kick her son out because he's rebellious? Of course he's rebellious. Now, we don't know where this kid's father is. We don't know if he has one. You know, a biological father who's part of the family context? Apparently not. Very high likelihood he's illegitimate. So the mother makes compounded mistakes and then kicks the kid out. There's no family structure here. His grandmother may have been doing the best that she could, but that's a great tragedy. And then I have to wonder, well, why was the daughter, the mother of this kid, so messed up? What about those parents? This stuff is always generational, multi-generational. Now, you've heard me talk about, in my book of curse breaking, I have a whole section in this book on the curse of illegitimacy. I've talked about this many times. Some of you may be new. If you were conceived with rape, incest, adultery, or fornication, read Deuteronomy 23. There's a curse that comes with that. Now, as I clearly explained, we live under grace, not the law, so the technicality of that curse doesn't apply, but the effect of the curse still does. I can tell you thousands of case studies where I've seen that to be the case. You break the curse of illegitimacy, and it's one of the most significant open doors to demons. So this kid had demons. And I'm making some assumptions here because we don't know the whole story yet, but there ain't a dad around anywhere right now who's speaking up about this whole thing, and drug-addicted mom, she's nowhere to be found. Eventually, of course, she will be. So he was neglected by his mother, abandoned by his father, and he was overlooked by school. But all due respect, these teachers probably didn't know what to do. How do you handle a kid like this? Well, he's supposed to be handled at home by a two-parent family. And hopefully a Christian two-parent family, which this wasn't. What are the chances? What are the chances? I'm asking you parents out there who love the Lord, who are walking with Christ, excuse me, and are raising godly children. What are the chances your child is going to walk into a school tomorrow and murder 21 people? What are the chances of that? Zero. I've got 3 daughters. My wife did an incredible job of raising these children and homeschooling them and making sure they got the right kind of education and the right type of biblical training. What are the chances one of my daughters is going to walk in and buy 2 AR-15s and go to a school and start murdering children? Zero. Can we just look at this very basically, Matthew and LeBron and President Biden, and just say, wait a minute, Jesus makes the difference. Can we get that? Jesus makes the difference. When there's a Christian family, a godly family, raising children by biblical values, they don't go blowing people away. They don't do it in Parkland. They don't do it in Sandy Hook. And they don't do it in Texas. And remember, this kid was obsessed with violent video games. He had no supervision from his mother, and I'm cutting the grandmother some slack because she probably was doing the best that she could, given the circumstances. Well, how does this happen? All right, a couple of quick chats, and then I'm going to tell you what this is really all about. Okay? Ashley mentions Deuteronomy 23, which is about the curse of illegitimacy. Okay, let's see here. Benny says, we're sick of this. What do we do? We'll see about that. Someone shared a gift of $20. Thank you for the super chat gift out there. You know, when we get in front of a camera like this and pull something like this together, did it ever occur to many of you out there that there's actual money involved in doing this? That there is expense? I'll leave it to you to determine, when I'm done today, whether or not it was valuable and important for me to address the nation, and particularly address the Christian community worldwide about this problem. And if you think it has value, then I encourage you to go to boblarson.org, click on donate, and share a gift with this ministry. Or text the word give to 833-361-4711. All right. 5 pillars that sustain society. How are we going to solve this problem? Well, I'm not going to blow hot air like Matthew and LeBron and just vent like the president did. No. And the default seems to be with the politicians, the guns. Wait a minute. No. There may be an issue with guns. That is a topic to be legitimately debated, and it has been debated over and over in Congress. But the bigger issue is, what is wrong with an 18-year-old kid? Not that he got the guns. Why did he want to get them and kill so evil and indiscriminately? And where did he get the money to do it? There are 5 basic pillars that sustain society, and we're going to break these down for you. Belief in God, confidence in good government, the influence of the organized church, morally sound educational institutions, and 2-parent nuclear families. Now, hear me carefully on this. Mary says, I'm here on an Indian reservation in Southern California. I've seen demons since I was 5 years old. They come to me in gangs at times. They call death on me. I could have ended up like this young man without Jesus. There it is. You hit it, Mary. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. All right. Here's the 5 pillars. Number 1, belief in God. This is so simple. The church is hemorrhaging, particularly since COVID. The lowest church attendance in the history of this country, and it's getting worse by the day. And yet, if you're a student of the news, and I'm a news junkie, so I follow stuff, and you know what I'm talking about. We're letting Satan clubs into the schools. Well, some have tried to fight it. And drag queen clubs in the school. I'm going to get this straight. You can be a Satanist or a drag queen and come into the school and display your belief system inherently because of your identity to young, impressionable minds, but they can't pray and read the Bible in school. How basic is this? So where are our moral touchstones? Where are our moral anchors? We don't have them in school anymore. Remember, some of you don't even have to be as old as I am and remember baccalaureate services? Yes. Excuse me. So when I graduated, as many of you did, on Sunday night before the graduation, there was a baccalaureate service, a Christian service, and a pastor spoke, giving the graduating students moral direction. That's not allowed anymore. We got a coach going before the Supreme Court because he dared to kneel with his players on the football team who agreed to kneel of their own volition and pray. Let me get this straight. You want to defend Colin Kaepernick for kneeling for his beliefs? I understand that's not a public institution of education. It's a football stadium. But wait a minute here. If he's got a right to express his belief where he is, why cannot a coach on a football field kneel and pray? Number 1 pillar is a belief in God. The second pillar is confidence in good government. If you watch the nightly news shows, and there's some of them I cannot watch, it just gets me too upset. It's all about political points being scored. And this has eroded our trust in Washington. Right now, the entire executive branch of the federal government and the DOJ are in favor of abortion on demand. Just understand that statement for a moment. My God, why is this happening? My God, why is this happening? Oh, kids got shot. My God, my God. Wait a minute. The entire executive branch and the DOJ, Department of Justice, is on record as favoring abortion on demand. And in many cases, up until the moment of birth, and in some cases after birth. And we're shocked that an 18-year-old kid in our culture doesn't respect life. We're getting it from the top down. What is government telling us? How dare How dare politicians rise up to defend the lives of school children in Texas when they won't stop at abortion up to the moment of birth? Belief in God, confidence in government. Number 3, the influence of the organized church. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat this morning. Demons did this in Texas. This kid was possessed. I am an exorcist. I have done this for nearly 50 decades. I know this stuff. This kid has demons. But here's the tragedy. If in the midst of his torment and that dysfunctional family and all the chaos and all the drugs, and the drugs is a big issue, and it's pouring across our southern border. Have you seen the statistics on fentanyl and how it shot up with the open borders policy? Now, that's another political issue. We're not going to get there specifically, but we got to get this drug thing under control. Do you know that of the people who come to me for help, listen to me, for exorcisms, I want to make this point plain. I'm going to maybe say it several times. At least 2/3 have a history of drug problems. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying they open doors to demons through the drugs. Demons open you to drugs, and that includes pot. And pot, weed is the worst. You get that? Weed is the worst. Look at some of my past blogs on the subject of marijuana. See what I've had to say. But here's the thing. This kid was possessed. 99% of the churches in America couldn't help him. If he went to them and he said, I'm tormented and I feel like I want to kill somebody, 99% of the churches in America not only would not do an exorcism on him, they wouldn't know how to do an exorcism on him. What is wrong with this picture? My God, my God, my God. No. God is there. God is there. And he wants to do something. Government won't let him, and the church won't let him. Thank God, the message of deliverance is getting a greater acceptance than ever because people are fed up and people see things like this happen and they're asking the question, it's evil. Well, if it's evil, where does evil come from? That was the big headlines on the news this morning. I guess one of the marshals or the sheriffs said, this was evil, this was evil. And the media grabbed that word, evil. Where does evil come from? It comes from a personal source. It comes from the devil. 5 pillars: belief in God, confidence in good government, influence in the organized church. Number 4, morally sound educational institutions. We don't have that anymore. Morally sound educational institutions that actually grade students on the basis of what they know. What a novel idea in many of the schools today. It's all about equity. Let's keep everybody level. Let's don't grade them on the basis of what they have studied and what knowledge they've trained. Let's set them loose in society to fail and get on drugs and have other types of problems and then fill the prison systems. How dare we blame the educational institutions? They're more concerned about their woke agendas of transgenderism and the correct pronouns. And some are not even sure about their own anatomy, and they're teaching our kids. When I think that there's 19 precious children, I guess they were all under the age of 10, or 10 or less. Don't tell me I don't have the right to speak with passion, blunt, direct, and a bit angry, righteously, disgusted at this whole thing. I got one more point to make. BLS says there's supposed to be an exorcist in every Catholic church, I think, correct? Yes. Same thing with the Church of England, but there isn't. Some of them do their best. Christie says churches are in denial about demonized Christians. Danielle says, correct. Oh, boy. Benny, the Rolling Stoner, says, I've seen a lot of good with cannabis. That leaves me almost at a loss for words. It doesn't even deserve an answer, sir. Christy says, my church is trained and ready. Good for you. BLS says, especially meth. Meth is one of the worst, absolutely. And he also says, we have desensitized the sanctity of life. Yes. Victoria says, drugs 100% opens doors to demonic possession. Absolutely correct. Java says, I can see Beto O'Rourke made a huge outburst at Governor Abbott during the news conference this morning. Beto? Are you kidding me? Okay, we're not going to go there. The 5 pillars. Belief in God, confidence in good government, influence of the organized church, morally sound education, and the 5th major pillar of society is the 2-parent nuclear family. It hardly exists anymore. Father figures? What's that? It's a thing of the past. 40% of the children in America that are born, and that doesn't include the ones that are killed by abortion, 40% are illegitimate. Every year in America, 1.6 million children come into the world to an unmarried mother. And most cases, a father who isn't even there. He's gone. He did his thing, felt good, left. Can you see Mr. Biden, Mr. McConaughey, LeBron, and the rest out there who want to solve this problem? And some do sincerely want to solve it. And I think Mr. Biden is genuinely outraged. Well, who wouldn't be? Any decent person would be outraged at what's going on. But what are we going to do about it? Are we going to deal with the real problem? Kicking God out of culture and society. Politicians who've created such dereliction of duty on both sides that there's no confidence in good government anymore. Influence of the organized church isn't there. You know, I didn't see, other than the Greg Laurie thing, and I'm sure there must have been some others, but the news media, when something like this happens, who do they go to? Who do they point the camera and the microphone to? It's never a priest or a pastor, almost. No, never. They're not asking the people, even if they don't believe in deliverance, who might have some answers from a moral standpoint about what's wrong with this country. They don't go to the church anymore because the church doesn't speak with a great moral voice of conviction. It's busy trying to be seeker-friendly and to make sure that they can fill the seats of the church. With a great show, but never talk about the devil. Well, there you have it. Those 3 plus morally sound educational institutions, the 2-parent nuclear family. There's much more to say about this. I want you to be sure to tune in tonight. 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. This is going to be an incredible session of Bob Larson Live when I have this woman on who went to a psychic, reached the point where she realized what she was being told was a scam, tried to get out, and then got cursed by the psychic. And the psychic astral projected through witchcraft into her mind to control her, and I actually spoke to the psychic now. This is going to get interesting tonight, and it's live. And yes, we need to pray for those families. I can't imagine. I can't imagine what it's like to send your child off to school. And an 18-year-old madman, full of demons, in need of an exorcism, and nobody would tell him that. And if he realized he had that problem, not many places he could go. You send your kid off to school, and this young man walks in filled with rage and hate. It came from somewhere. It came generationally. It came from the family. And starts murdering people. I can say I pray to the Lord Jesus that it doesn't happen again, and I will pray, but the chances are, unless we change some of these things, it will happen again. So it's up to those of us who do have an understanding of these things that I've talked about today to speak up and speak up loudly, forcefully, to make our will known at the ballot box, to make it known to our pastors that they need to get on with the job of fighting the devil instead of trying to make people feel comfortable and give them pious platitudes, feel-good feelings, promises of health, prosperity, and wealth, and just start getting them the real gospel of Jesus Christ, 1/3 of which cast out demons. I agree with you in prayer for the parents, extended family members, whose grief at this point is absolutely incomprehensible. To those of us who have children who are alive and were not murdered by a madman. Continue to pray for this city, the elected government officials, law enforcement officials, and others who are now faced with the task of, and let me add this one rejoinder, looking for a motive. I heard that all over the news this morning, looking for a motive. Wait a minute. When you have demons, you don't have to have a motive. Do you understand that? They're going to look for a motive. A demon doesn't need a motive. Sometimes there is. Sometimes there's a manifesto. Maybe not. It's just the demons. And in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, with this prayer family, we come against the forces of darkness. That even now, you, Satan, are planning the next slaughter. We ask the Lord to send angels of confusion upon you. Whatever that next assignment is, we cancel it by the blood of the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm not saying we're going to stop at 100%, but there are going to be some things, if we agree together in prayer right now, to destroy the plans of the enemy for the next school, the next shooter. We may be saving countless lives by this simple agreement in prayer and by your continuing to pray that prayer. Thank you for joining us this morning. Be sure to be watching tonight, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. We talk about the psyche astral projecting to destroy the ex-client. And thank you for supporting this ministry, making it possible for us to get out a message you don't get anywhere else. That through Jesus Christ, we don't have to put up with these sort of things in society anymore. That even this young man, as twisted as he was, my heart goes out to him in a way. I mean, he's dead now. We can't do anything about it, but he was tormented. If the next Salvador Ramos is watching, go to a church, talk to a pastor, see a counselor, speak of your pain, get in touch with us. No more of this. This is the way to end it. We, through Jesus, in the church, the body of Christ, have the answer. But we first have to get free, stay free, and live free.
Your financial support and prayers make it possible for us to bring hope for the hurting and freedom to those in spiritual bondage. For the latest information regarding ministry outreaches, go to boblarson.org or call 303